to another edition of GAS. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of the Tight Pants Society.
No f***ing play is that a gimme, right?
Let's go! All right, we roll into this Tuesday with GAS number 18. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik. We got some UFC to get to with a nice little fight card in London. And, of course, it is the second best run of the year for the Degenerati, Jason Anik. The Super Bowl is king. However, the NCAA tournament is right behind it when it comes to getting your bet on.
Oh, no question about it. Good to be with you all live Tuesday morning, 11 a.m. And I will say, right, doing a show once a week, there's always gifts. We're always receiving gifts, right? So much to talk about every week, even when the NFL, you know, we're NFL guys. Oh, the NFL season's over. We're whining about it. So much to talk about. March Madness this Thursday, my favorite day ever to be in Las Vegas. If I could be there for the first round of the NCAA tournament, I can't wait to talk to you about that. Other things, maybe touch on a little Boston Red Sox today. I'm all fired up as usual.
You know what, brother? I have never done the NCAA tournament in Las Vegas. Have you done like the first weekend in Vegas yet, or is that on the bucket list that you'd like to check off at some point?
I've never done the full, weekend in the 4 days. I think I went there one time when I lived in LA. This is about 20 years ago. I went there for the Thursday, Friday, and my God, right? But, you know, you got to really pick your spots, right? And our friend Matty Betts at Home of Fight, he has this thing where he puts $1,000 money line on every underdog, every game in the tournament. I know a couple years ago at Cash, I don't know how well it did this year, but there's a lot of different ways to bet this tournament. But I hate to say this, but I tend to see the board more clearly when my boots are on the ground in Las Vegas betting sports. I'm better when I stay out of the casino and focus on the book.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because the only time I've ever gone to Vegas at a normal time was in one of my, I don't know, I guess years in transition where I went out there for a college football weekend. And I'd never been able to do it before. And this was like 2009 for crying out loud. So this is at least 15 years ago that I've gone out there for like a real college football Saturday. And you're right. There's nothing like it. I don't care what sports book you're in. Like for me, if I were out there, I'd post up at the South Point only because their sports book's great and their hot dogs from their hot dog cart are really unbelievable. But I think, Jay, for a lot of people, there is just the filling out of the brackets, which is a lot of fun. And then there are the hardcore degenerati who've gotten down on like, St. John's minus 18.5 in their first round game. A lot of people are riding Drake. But I think for most, it is the what's your final four? Because it sort of tells you how you're going to wager along the way in each of these regions. And for me, I hate that I have a chalky Final Four. But I think in looking at this whole tournament, Jay, I can't get away from there is no major Cinderella. There is no team out of nowhere that is really going to catch us off guard anymore. Remember 20 years ago when FHM magazine, my buddy Scott Gramling, wrote the big article on betting the 12 and 13 seeds on the money line? Like 15, 20 years ago, that was a betting hack. Now, to hell with it. Everybody knows that betting hack when it comes to the NCAA tournament. So I think most people just really focus on their Final Four because they can get down on betting them for the Natty or the Final Four and all the different wagers that we now have round by round for some of these teams.
You know, you talk about as a sports fan or as a sports reporter or journalist, sort of what your bandwidth is, right? UFC welterweight champion Bilal Muhammad knows everything about the fight game. Every single fighter that could show up on any fight card, he could probably picture their last fight. So when I look at the college basketball bracket and I sort of try to study guys that sort of follow this sport on a regular basis, yeah, I'm looking for gambling opportunities rather than necessarily having fun with a bracket at age 46 years old. But I will say, as you talk about those 12-5 seeds, right? One game sticks out to me, Colorado State, 12 seed facing Memphis. Colorado State is minus 2.5. So even one of those 12-5 games that are, you know, you like to pick, oh, I'm going to take the 12 seed. That's a 12 seed that's actually favored.
Yeah, it is. And Memphis, who did win the American, so they didn't end up losing the bid for the American Athletic Conference. Memphis was going to get in anyway, but there's one of those teams where you look at their body of work, and this is where the SEC and the ACC have an advantage. The American was down this year, and even some of the teams that Memphis tried to play up, it was kind of Mets of Mets. So I understand why a 12 seed is favored against them. And you're right, there will be some opportunity. A lot of people like Drake. I think Drake's in a 6-11 game. That's a team that is very popular out there in terms of betting. A lot of chalk early, though, because the real hardcores want to jump on, like, again, St. John's minus 18.5 before that number really starts to balloon up there.
Yeah, and it's interesting. And the game you selected, right? Drake, Missouri. Missouri's minus 6.5 points. And when I'm filling out my first round bracket, I'm paying a lot of attention to the point spreads. I mean, there are spots where you're going to see, right? Like I'm on a 13. I think I'm on High Point, right? I think
a lot of people are, yeah.
14 straight basketball games. I think they can fill it up a little bit, but it's fun to fill out the bracket. But yeah, I'd be lying to you if I told you my Final Four wasn't chalky as well, AG3.
All right, well, let's get into it then, because my Final Four is Michigan State, St. John's, Duke, and Houston. Now, I got a natty ticket on Houston that I got early in the year. I really like them coming out of last year into this season, and Houston has not disappointed at all. Here's really the wild card that I see, Jay, for Duke, and that is we don't know what's up with Cooper Flagg, but if they can just get through the first weekend, then I think the Blue Devils can sort of think about maybe going back to the Final Four. I'm not a fan necessarily of old Rick Whiteshoes down at St. John's, but Pitino has done an unbelievable job. And St. John's is in Providence with Calipari in Arkansas. So, my God, the Italian restaurants look out. And their waitresses, by the way. But another story for another time, as we know. And then I'm on Michigan State. And I almost feel like a lot of rubes like me, Jay, look for Michigan State and see if Izzo's crew played well down the stretch. And then it's, well, I trust Izzo, even though it's been kind of up and down for Michigan State. A lot of Sweet 16s, a lot of Elite 8s. And obviously some Final Fours, but I'm on Michigan State, St. John's, Duke, and Houston. St. John's is plus 2,800 to win the national championship. Michigan State is plus 2,500 to win the national championship. And with the way my bracket breaks down, one of those two teams, in my opinion, ends up in the national title game, and those are juicy big numbers for them in terms of winning the national title. Where is your Final Four, Jason Anik?
So it's interesting. As I look at my bracket here, so I'm on all 4 1 seeds to get to the Final Four. So we are aligned on Duke and Houston. I am on Auburn in the South, and I'm on Florida in the West. And I will say it is fascinating seeing some of these lines. I mean, Florida, for example, minus 125 to make it to the Final Four. Right. I mean, laying a minus number. There's some fascinating odds here. But I want to bring something to you, right? My brother played Florida at 30-1 earlier this season down here at Hard Rock Bet. I shouldn't even give them the love, but I'm going to just say, so it's 30-1, 300 to pay 9,300, right? So they're offering him 1,600, almost 1,700 bucks to cash out right now on Florida.
Oh, take it. Oh my God, take it.
Take the 1,700?
Yeah.
Don't you think they win their first 2 games?
Is this Sweet 16 or to get to the Final Four?
It's to win the whole thing. 300 to pay 9,300. But what I'm saying, they're offering 1,664 right now. And I wonder when he placed this bet at 31. But I told him, you don't take that at all. If Florida can't find a way to get through these next first 2 games, everyone thinks they're the best team in the country. If they can't find a way to get through these first 2 games right now, then you're going to lose 300 bucks. But I think there's going to be massive hedge opportunities for him. I think they have a great chance to go the whole way, but he can make some money along the way either way.
Well, I hear what you're saying in terms of win the first 2 and see if the odds go up. I just don't know how much it would go up, because Florida is such a heavy favorite, especially in game 1. And then we know they should be an 8-9 seed. Boy, that's interesting. My gut is the whole cash out now, take the money and run, because it is such a good profit. I hear what you're saying. Maybe you could sit and wait a weekend on it. I'll tell you this. The one thing about Florida is we know they can score. The question is, if they get into a game where they can't stop anybody, and then does someone sort of play up? But wow, that is You Anics are all over it down there at Hard Rock Bet.
Yeah, and that's why they blocked me for so long. Anyway, no, I'm not killing it there. But you have St. John's making it out of that West region, do you not?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So, and gosh, I mean, nothing would give me greater pleasure than for Rick Pitino to be in Final Four. 72 years old? I think it's his sixth college team that he's brought into this tournament, or sixth program. But St. John's, I've heard, they can't score. They can't make the three. So I tend to think if they face Florida, I would like that matchup. So I assume you think Florida may end up facing St. John's. You like the Johnnies to get through them, huh?
No, I do. And there's a couple of reasons why. And I don't want to sound like Northeast bias here, but I really do believe in the Big East come the tournament. And if you're at the top of the Big East, you're in one of the two best conferences in college basketball in any given year. Some years the ACC will rise up. This year the SEC set records in terms of the amount of teams that they got into the tournament. But the stuff about Pitino is he's been there, knows how to prepare a team, won't lose his guys along the way, even though they won the Big East championship. They're long, they're tough, and they got guards. And to me, that's the formula. Are you long and are you tough? And then do you have a point guard or a backcourt that can really handle what would be the pressure as it mounts during March Madness? That's why I love this. I mean, I don't hate Pitino, right? There are certain things that I hate about Pitino. Now the cheating is legal, so this guy should be among the best at it because he's been doing it forever. But I respect the hell out of him as a coach. He's 72, Jay. I'm not even watching this Vice documentary. He's MFing these guys up and down. Like, dude, I go back to the Belichick stuff where it's like, oh, these old guys, all they want to do is want to yell at him. Look at St. John's and how those kids respond to Pitino when he gets on their ass.
100%. And you led me to my point about coaching, right? These guys, whether it's in the NFL, they want to be coached. We talked about Mercedes Lewis in Chicago, talking about Caleb Williams needed to be coached last year. They like being pushed. And guess what? If it brings greater performance, then they'll be happier for it. It's interesting you talk about the East Coast. A couple of interesting nuggets from DraftKings that I find interesting. No team west of Texas has won this tournament since the year I graduated from high school, 1997. No team on the west side. Now, the majority of teams are on the east side. That eliminates 13 teams from this year's tournament. No seed higher than 8 has made the title game. That eliminates 29 teams. One more for you. The last 20 champions have been ranked in the top 12 of the week 6 poll, kind of random. That eliminates 16 teams. There's another couple of rules there. But anyway, DraftKings narrows it down when you take out all these rules to either Duke or Florida. So anyway, did you name your champion yet? I know we said our final 4. Who do you have winning the whole thing?
Oh, I have Houston St. John's in the national championship game, and I have Houston winning the whole thing. I just think Houston's athleticism matched up against St. John's. Houston to me is a little bit like an East Coast team. They can play physical. They do rebound the ball pretty well. I liked Houston from the very beginning. Where did you land on the winner eventually?
I believe Houston will be playing on April 7th in that final night. I got to ride with my brother John on Florida. And look, my bandwidth for college basketball is not enormous. There's only so many hours in the day. But I thought about, going with another team or, I do think Duke is going to be healthy and I think they may be a problem. I considered going there, but I'm going to ride with my brother John. I'm trying to get him to send me the date when he placed this bet. 30-1 on the University of Florida Gators is a great price. That sounds almost like a preseason number. So I'm riding with the Florida Gators. I live in Florida, East Coast, baby.
Well, and if you get 2 wins, then you can really sit and evaluate, all right, do we take this cash out now? Even if it only goes up a couple of bucks, see what the road is in front of Florida because they're still getting through the Final Four. And, I think Duke is the real wild card in this tournament only because of Cooper Flagg. I don't see anybody coming out of nowhere. What's really funny is you and I did not mention really Auburn. I know you had Auburn in your Final Four, but a lot of people like Johnny Broom and that group, old cheating Bruce Pearl. Again, it ain't cheating no more. So now everybody is on the up and up. But that's another guy who can coach as well.
Yeah, so, you see Bruce Pearl on the desk, right? Halftime, right?
I mean, that dude is just—he's
the man. For those of you who didn't catch it. He's like, our guards aren't pussies. How about that guy? You know what I mean?
He's fantastic. And I do appreciate how glib and funny that he is. And those SEC coaches, I mean, man, oh man, that guy Chris Beard is on like his third SEC program. I think one he got thrown out for like recruiting violations, one because they thought it was moral turpitude or something like that. And then Ole Miss was like, bring your scuzzy ass over here. We'll take you. And then,
Right?
of course, they make the NCAA tournament, which is really what all those SECs, the SEC just wants to be able to brag like they do during football season. Jay, I never get more phone calls from people that, hey, it's college football playoffs should be SEC Invitational. We got best 4 teams around. I'm waiting for them to rise up when it comes to college basketball. So there you go, folks. We gave you a little primer. If you would like to join us in our group, go to follow on Twitter at The Real Gresh, at Boston Anik, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that kind of stuff. Make sure you get us there, of course, on the YouTube channel at The Real Gresh. But we are going to put together our own little bracket group. It'll be out there on social media for you to be able to join and play against us when it comes to the NCAA tournament.
So before you move forward, what is your Thursday like this week?
Believe it or not, I actually don't have a show. So for me, I will probably just flip it on CBS or whatever, like TNT, TBS, True TV, whatever.
So you're watching tournament all day.
That's unbelievable.
Your demanding microphone schedule.
Yeah, I'll be
no microphone in front of your mouth on Thursday. That's great.
Yep. That's really what it comes down. Now, if I were working, Jay, it'd probably be a lot worse. Meaning that I'll sort of watch it as a casual and maybe just kind of check off the boxes as I go. But if I were working Thursday, I'd have to dig in probably way deeper than I want to. I know you listen, you're Thursday, you're busy, you're dealing with John, you got kids, all that stuff. I'm at the point of life to where I can roll out of bed at 10:30, take a dump, make an English muffin, and then I can go, smoke a J and sit around the rest of the day.
Unbelievable. That sounds tremendous. Did you see what Cody just put up on the board? Even money on there to be a buzzer beater. How about yes on that, right?
Definitely.
This tournament always delivers, right? How about yes?
Yeah, I think that's you would think initially, that's a sucker bet. And then you start to think of it and you're like, damn, how many buzzer beaters have we had in the NCAA tournament? You start to think about it, and that becomes a much more intoxicating wager, does it not?
Give me all of it.
I think of Bryce Drew, at the very end of Valpo a bunch of years ago. There's was it Tyus Edney for UCLA?
That's the one that was in my head.
Yep. The Jim Herrick. Yeah, that's right. They came to URI and destroyed them, him and his kid teaching a fake class.
Oh, there's a schedule bone. I like it.
Oh, my God. He yelled at me. He's another one, Jim Herrick, who yelled at me. I think we were in a press conference, and he said, I thought you were a football guy. What I wanted to say was, and I thought you weren't the dirty cheater at UCLA, but I had to let that go. So,
hey, why aren't you going to the Amica Mutual Pavilion for some of these games? How far is that?
Bro, it's 5 miles from my house, but let me tell you something. Those tickets are now the Patino and Calipari ended up in Providence for those first round games. The numbers have gone through the roof. That's why I said Casarinos and Constantinos, any Enos up in Boston, or I'm up on Federal Hill, excuse me. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of college basketball coaches there at some point. Let's get into some NFL because you and I have been on the Travis Hunter train for a long period of time here on Gas Morning Drive. We've liked this guy forever. Abdul Carter's in there as well. But with the New England Patriots sitting there at number 4 in this draft, the Pats are still plus 180 to get Hunter on DraftKings. But Tony Grossi, who, take it for what it's worth, he's one of these people out there supposedly putting out information. This is a guy who says, and here's the way he positioned it in the tweet. This is amazing. So it says that a source closer to the situation than him expects the asking price to be a 3rd round pick. That is some game of telephone reporting.
The asking price for what?
Sorry, for Joe Milton. I apologize. That for Joe Milton, Patriots backup quarterback. Now, I'll forget the reporter. let's focus on the report and moving Milton. Do you want the Patriots to move on from Joe Milton first and foremost, Anik?
Not yet. However, Drake May is the future, and he's only 22 years old. So the conversation sort of stops there. I think if you can get some value, perhaps you do. And maybe his value will never be higher than, because I know there are people like you, and I don't want to speak for you, that when Joe Milton made his appearance in week 18 and everybody got excited, Andy Gresh didn't. So I'm sure you would love a third-round pick for Joe Milton. For me, I see some skills. I don't know if the value could increase. I like being deep at that position. Right. I don't think there's any harm in having Josh Dobbs and Joe Milton in that room. And with what I am concerned about Drake May's concussion stuff. Right. And as I'm talking to my Baba, Gianni, who just gave me this tight fade, by the way, who's a Dolphins fan, you think about Tua Tagovailoa, right? Tua's not hoisting a trophy. And given the concussion history, I don't think Tua is going to have a huge, long career. So I do think another year of insurance, given that we still don't know everything there is to know about Drake May, I think Milton really does have potential to play in this league.
Yeah, I'm torn on this because I would flip the player. I don't think you're getting a third round pick is just crack. I mean, you're not getting a third for the guy, but maybe what you do is that's what you put towards your 2026 stockpile. Because here really is the question, Jay. I'm with you. I think there's a lot of skills to like with Joe Milton. Is this Patriots group of the mindset they want to develop him? They want to nurture this guy, that it's worth having him on the roster in their eyes because of their plan. Gerard Mayo had no idea clearly what he was doing. And it was, well, this guy went to Tennessee. I know the connections. Hey, I'll cash in some chips to make this pick. But their thought was, there's something here. We put him in the incubator for 3 years on the practice squad. I don't know, Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels are going to see Joe Milton kind of the same way. And it doesn't look like Milton really wants to change positions, which I think those guys might be more interested in than keeping Milton there as a quarterback. But if you can flip him, I think you have to. If for anything else, somebody wants him. And in reality, what's he really worth? If you get a 5th round pick and you drafted him in the 6th or 7th round, then you've at least moved a round up. So I can kind of live with that. I don't need Joe Milton on the roster. What I need is a clear plan as to what is the hierarchy at the quarterback position, and is developing a young guy still a part of that? Because let's think of it. We've gone from now Bailey Zappi being the guy that people would rub peanut butter on their nipples for, to now Joe Milton, where people are going nuts.
Yeah, I never rubbed any peanut butter on my nipples for Bailey Zappi. My only brief bit of excitement about Bailey Zappi was because that meant that Mac Jones was going to the bench. But he's going to bounce around, make a few million, go out to San Francisco. You know, I think you laid that out beautifully in terms of if they want to develop him or not. And I think that's a really interesting component. Utilizing him perhaps in other ways, I think, is interesting. Jimmy Garoppolo, I know he had a lot more on film and certainly has made a lot of money and accomplished some things in this league. But what did they get for him? A 2nd round pick? Was it a 4th round pick?
It was a 2nd round pick. I don't think I've rolled out my Jimmy Garoppolo conspiracy theory on you. If we go back very quickly, do you have 30 seconds to hear this?
Oh, for you?
So think about this. Tom Brady and Bill Belichick were bickering over money at the time, right? They knew that the hourglass, they knew they weren't going to be able to pay 2 quarterbacks. So they had to ultimately trade Garoppolo because they weren't allowed to trade Brady. But think of this. If you're Belichick, how do you try to sneakily win that battle? At the time in 2017, what team would have been Tom Brady's mistress that would have lured him away from New England? It was the 49ers. So same agent, by the way. So you put the agent in a tricky spot. You trade San Francisco Garoppolo, and now Belichick thinks he's got the leverage over Brady, when in reality, Brady did what he thought he wouldn't do. Peg him the finger, walk away, went to Tampa, and of course we know what happened. How about that?
Dude, it's great stuff there. It's really interesting to talk about the agents, right? On the heels of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with the same agent making that happen. Unbelievable.
And that agent, Rocky, whatever his name is, must really like Jordan Schultz to be able to give him that scoop. But I think Belichick was actually up to some nefarious stuff whenever they were trading away Jimmy G. Jimmy G ended up with the Rams. I know I sort of told you last week all about Josh Dobbs. I think if you're in New England and it's a Mayo connected guy, you're probably going to move on. A lot like when Mayo took over, you could look at Mac and other people as a Bill connected guy. Let's kind of move some of those people out of here. But when you look at the Patriots roster, it's getting deeper and better every time they go out and make a free agent signing. And I feel really comfortable where the defense is at right now. Offensively, there is still a big ways to go. It's some critical spots, but defensively, my goodness, they're deeper, they're better. And if they end up with Travis Hunter, and even if Hunter is really more wide receiver than corner, you can plug that kid out there on third downs. Oh my God. I mean, think about that corner group. If you have Gonzo, Hunter, Carlton Davis, those are your top three. And then when you bring in Slottington, okay, well, here's Marcus Jones, who's great at running around and kind of covering those guys. You go from probably an average defensive backfield to one of the top 5 in the NFL if Hunter just lands in your lap.
Dude, and we've talked about this coaching tree. You see Marcus Epps there. I mean, Josh McDaniels seems to have rubbed some players the right way with the Raiders that have sort of come to join him here. But unbelievable the way they're filling out the roster. And a lot of complaining Patriots fans. They're like, look at this offense. Gentlemen, ladies, it's March 18th. Give them some time to sort of flesh this out. And look, Travis Hunter is, I hate to even say it, at plus 180, but favored to go to New England. It makes me want to bury my head. I feel as though there's going to be something that's going to make that not happen. But before we talk, I want to talk a little bit more about the Patriots and the wide receiver position. But I want to ask you a question I didn't have in my notes. So if the Patriots hadn't have been dumb enough to lose out on that number 1 slot, where do you think they'd be leaning if they were sitting in that number 1 slot right now?
Oh, they would be looking at trade down. I firmly but I'm talking trade down like to where they are, Jay.
Right.
Not trade down to like
okay.
10,
So
right?
Yeah, no, you're right. So maybe that's a moot conversation. So whether or not they get Travis Hunter, Brandon Ayuk, right? 4 years, 120 million, I believe it is, 30 million a year. Why not? 76 million guaranteed. Rumblings that San Francisco doesn't want that contract on their books. Is he much less to you than T. Higgins? I know he's coming off a big injury.
Yes. Here's the thing with me and Brandon Ayuk. The 49ers are pretty shrewd with their personnel moves, right? There have been very few guys who have left the 49ers. It's either been money related and they were good players, or they make good decisions. Now, last year, they were all horny for Brandon Ayuk because the Patriots were in trying to make a trade, and they get this guy signed. Now you want to turn around and move on from the dude? That's the part that I don't get. That's the part that now scares me about Brandon Ayuk a little bit, is that the 49ers, after you were pursuing them, are now willing to move on from this player. Why? Right. Because of injury? Because he's disgruntled? Because he'll come here and be a turd in the punch bowl? I don't know. I think there's a lot of red flags there.
Well, and they have intimate knowledge of how he's healing and how he's working through his physical therapy and everything else he's doing. You know, there was that moment in training camp last year where he pulled his pants down. I believe that was before the contract discussions. But I do think when these players get injured, how they're going to come back oftentimes is a wild card. And we absolutely forget that dude Ayuk on that football field. And, you know, T. Higgins, even though I never thought it was a real possibility for the Patriots, every time you watch him on the field, regardless of who's on the other side of the field, and Jamar Chase, he's that dude. And Ayuk had some moments where he was that dude. I just feel like maybe that contract is a little expensive for them, where maybe the Patriots might be more willing to take it on. I don't think it's out of the realm of the possibility. I would still love to see him come to town. But I have a lot of confidence in the Patriots to fill that position, whether it's in the draft or whether it's in free agency with a second-tier guy as WR2 or 3 or a slot type guy.
Well, next year, Jacoby Myers is a free agent. I don't know if they go back to that well. I just pulled up the 2026 wide receiver free agent crop, and we're talking like Deebo Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Mike Evans once again, Christian Kirk, Cortland Sutton, Jacoby Myers. I wonder if there's still a trade coming, Jay, and that's what I'm expecting. I still think they're now – it might not be for the real number 1 wide receiver, but I wonder if they're going to look at it and say, We have this gaggle of young guys. If two young guys can end up, standing out amongst the rest, then we know that we can bring those guys into the future. You still have Matt Collins. Kendrick Bourne is still on this roster,
right?
but very
can
cuttable.
He not be a WR2 back with Josh McDaniels? Like, he is a unique player, man. He's really fucking good.
I'll tell you what it is. I really think that it's what happens in the draft, meaning if they get Hunter and they're going to put Travis Hunter as wide receiver 1, okay? Right. So say you get Hunter, he's one of your starting wide receivers. Then who's your next guy in terms of dudes that you think might be able to stand out? As crazy as it sounds, it might be Kayshon Boutte, might be the guy that is ready, but with Pop in the slot, that's the thing. If you get Hunter, now you have the ability to slide everybody in theory into the spots that you want them to. Polk is an outside guy. Boutte's an outside guy. Pop would be an inside slot receiver. How you use Bourne is kind of up for conjecture. I'll be honest, Jay, I really wonder if Kendrick Bourne is out of here and the Patriots say, nah, we screwed up. Go trade for Jacoby Myers, bring him back in. He's kind of your number 2 to go with Hunter. Then you have the rest of the guys to sort of battle it out. You got Pop in the slot. You can hope the best for Boutte. And then you have Polk and Baker as well. So maybe getting Travis Hunter is the real key to figuring out the wide receiver room.
I always like these hypotheticals. Fascinating to see how much of a toe in the water Tom Brady has out there with the Raiders and how much he'd want to do business back with the guys in New England. Belichick isn't there anymore.
No, he isn't, and I don't think Brady cares at this point. I think he's Tommy Boy Davis has found his Jordan Hudson. Unfortunately, for the ladies of Earth out there,
you see Belichick got yoga on the beach, by the way.
Yeah, what'd you make of that? Luckily, her ass is nice and flat. His foot goes right on there, perfect. She does not have a back shelf at all.
That's hilarious. I'm still trying to figure out what to make of that whole situation, right? Make sure.
What is it that intrigues you the most about it, Jason Anik?
Well, wasn't there a video of Belichick doing a walk of shame at some point?
Yeah. A shirtless. Yeah. Shirtless ring doorbell camera, leaving at like 6 a.m. Supposedly, the word that was into the place I was working at the time, the sleuths there, was that apparently at the time the dad wasn't happy, and that's how the ring doorbell camera video sort of got out. But apparently now the parents have just dived right into the Belichick pool and been like, sure, date our 24-year-old.
Well, and Belichick's just living his best life, and he really doesn't care. He's doing exactly what he wants to do. Not dissimilar to drafting Cole Strange because he just feels like it. He can do whatever he wants. The world is his. And by the way, did you hear about this 4-star defensive tackle that he plucked away from Texas A&M, Treshaun Ruffin?
Now, I read this story, but I don't know the details.
Well, so I guess he's number 238 in the ESPN Junior 300. He was committed to Texas A&M, so he is now the Tar Heels' highest-rated new pledge since Belichick joined the program. He's the 12th-ranked prospect from the state of North Carolina in the 2026 cycle. 6'3", 305 pounds. But, I mean, dude, we're just all excited for college football, all because of Bill Belichick, and there are going to be some dudes in there. I just hope they get out of the gate okay. So they're at least in the mix or at least in the discussion. But it's going to be interesting to see what the team looks like. I think he's going to overachieve, if anything.
I do too. I think there'll be some low expectations because there'll be how's he going to coach young guys? He'll be just fine. He's put together a hell of a staff. How about the fact that, and there it is right there. Belichick stretching it. Now on the first one, the legs are a little bent. I think in the yoga world, that would not work too well. But see, on the second one, the legs are almost extended, and apparently that's a big deal. And I mean, I there's so much I could say right now. That second photo of her acting like she's flying right into him is just delightful to me.
It is just fascinating. I just am so curious how much of a grasp on his life she has, whether it's the credit card or whether it's the allowance or whether it's the access to everything. I'd love to know what his children think, who are like 10 to 15 years.
Oh, they're not happy.
Stevie B.
And you
Oh,
got
I mean, Steve
you
Belichick needs to stay in his lane. What is he not
well,
happy about?
I think it's more of the. Let me ask you this, okay? Can I paint a quick scenario?
Please.
If the third Anik brother was significantly older than you, right? So if the Anik that we never see was significantly older than you, and he shows up, 10 years from now, where your kids are grown, and then here's Uncle Harpo
Uncle
with a
Dave, yep.
Uncle Dave with a 23-year-old that is closer to age to your kids. That you mean to tell me your wife wouldn't pull you aside and just be like, what the hell is going on here? To me, that's the thing. It's not what the boys think. It's what the boys' wives think of dad showing up with a 24-year-old on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah, well, your example was pretty good, but you're talking about my brother. And so my wife would pull me aside and be like, how about Dave? How about Dave pulling this? She would be. But no, it's just fascinating to me. Like, it's such a big gap. But hey, in a way, I think there are a lot of unique relationships. And I think that one, stranger things have happened. I think it's working. So you go out, do your thing, Chapel Bill.
I mean, hey, listen, I think he's got her CC'd on a lot of football correspondence when it comes to like social media and things like that. So he couldn't really just straight up give her a job. So, he created a role.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and I think she was the ones that on to North Carolina. But, we were talking about these wide receivers for the Patriots, and there are some names that are still out there. I don't know to what interest you have in any of the guys that are out there. I don't have great interest in too many of them, if I'm being honest with you.
Well, you know what? It led to the question, and I talked about this on Sirius over the weekend. And it was, if you're given a 1-year, $10 million deal to one of these veteran wide receivers, which one would you pick? And believe it or not, Jay, for a lot of people, they were like, I don't know if I'd give any of these guys $10 million. But 1 year, $10 million for either Steph Diggs, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks. I put Tyler Lockett in there as well, because I think that's a sneaky add to that wide receiver free agent group. But if it's just 1 year, $10 million, okay, we're bringing you in here to be a 1-year mercenary. Who are you handing that deal to? It's a tough question.
Gosh, yeah. I mean, I would prefer to answer none of the above. Honestly, they're all north of age 30, all on the back nine. I mean, I think Stephon Diggs, he tore his ACL last year. I actually think it'd be interesting. I guess he restored some of his old Instagram posts that had him on the Bills. And I think that he's been working out with Geno Smith a little bit. So who knows? But I think the biggest upside in terms of on the field, I think would be Stephon Diggs. I like Tyler Lockett. I think he'd be a great fit with this team. Brandon Cooks, right? So the teams he's played for: Saints, Patriots, Rams, Texans, Cowboys. Just insane. A player this good has played for that many teams. His shortest stint was with the Patriots, but he was very good that year. I mean, I don't know. It's Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen. I mean, he looks 42 to me, even though he still can get it done on the field a little bit. But I don't know. Amari Cooper, I don't really know what he has left. He actually had a couple good years in Cleveland. I don't know. To me, it'd probably be none of the above. But I do think if you're telling me you're drafting Travis Hunter and Stephon Diggs is on the team too, then I'm starting to actually maybe
salivate a little bit. Yeah, you start to think about what could be. I think that's specifically why Mac Hollins was brought in. He'd be good for the room. But I'm kind of with you. Even though it'd be overpaying a little bit, I'd try to knock it down to one year, $8 million. Tyler Lockett would be a really nice fit.
Oh, good graphic, Cody.
No, and that's the thing. You look at these guys that are available right now, and Jay, I'm with you. Steph Diggs is thing. Look at that previous average annual value of $22.5 million. Even if it's $14 million, it feels like a lot for someone like Steph Diggs. Allen is old. Amari Cooper feels like the guy that never hit the heights that he should have. With the talent that he has, it feels like he should have been a much more productive player. Cooks is washed. Johnson is nuts. Then you got Tyler Lockett sitting there, and that might not be the worst thing in the world. But I don't know, Jay. I'm starting to really think that, man, the Patriots know they're going to get Hunter, and they know they're going to put him on the offensive side of the ball, which is why there maybe hasn't been this bum rush to go get a number one receiver.
Gosh, I hope you're right. I mean, that's just interesting to hear it from that angle. I think Tyler Lockett maybe end up with the Raiders back with Pete Carroll, perhaps. I don't know. It's hard for me to sort of envision him in a Patriots uniform, even though I think it'd be a good fit. But I do believe you had made a comment about Josh McDaniels and to what extent he liked or didn't like the guys that are in that room right now. And I think that there's a lot of unknown there. So you can be like Pop Douglas, man. I think there's a role for that dude on this team. Yeah. I think, and all these, I think the vibe is going to be completely different. And one of the things that Vrabel talks about, which is my favorite sort of statement in all of professional sports, is playing for one another. And you wonder how much they're playing for one another. And, David Andrews, hats off. I appreciate everything you did for the organization, but not necessarily always the most vocal leader. Been part of a lot of down years and down teams. And I actually sort of like him moving on in a way, right? I mean, Cody had brought up the point, a year too early rather than a year too late. So I agree with everything they've done so far. And I have great confidence that the wide receiver room and the left tackle, those things will be addressed prior to September 1st.
I gotta say, I'm not nuts that they let Andrews go. However, it feels like Garrett Bradbury might end up being a guy that slides in. A lot of people are going down that road, and you'll see Bradbury, and you know what you'll notice? A lighter center who's only 300 pounds. But he's the kind of guy who has to work to get to 300 pounds, not just like a naturally large human being just by girth and by size.
Yeah, David Andrews is going to be a little guy once he retires, right? He got pretty wide. You're going to get
right. Andrews was one of those guys who sort of built himself up to play up. Now, maybe they go get Bradbury, but I know that at the end of the year, the kid Ben Brown that they put in there, I wonder if they're really starting to like him a little bit. And I know you joked about Cole Strange. That's the other guy they were cross-training to play center this past year. So
cool. Yeah.
Even if that guy is your swing inside player and Moses might be your swing outside player because you go get a real starter and Caden Wallace steps up at right tackle, you've at least got 8 offensive linemen that I think you can at least put out there and know at bare minimum you're going to survive, if not play well.
Do you think Doug Marrone and or Dante Scarnecchia was involved or had strong thoughts on David Andrews in terms of, because this guy, he very well could retire too. He's still coming off an injury.
Well, that's the thing. Coming off injury makes it easy to go do it. And no, I can understand them looking at it and being like, nope, you've been here 10 years, decades a lot at that position. We're just going to move on because they want to get bigger, stronger, faster. I think when you look at Vrabel, they're gonna want just those mother effer offensive linemen, guys that are maulers, guys that are tough. Not that that's Andrews, but that would have profiled more towards David Andrews 5 years ago when he was in the middle of his career versus kind of where he's at right now. So, I'm not slow singing if I were bringing over David Andrews, believe me, but that is a guy that you have to replace in terms of the leadership in the locker room, especially on that side of the ball. Because right now, if I said to you, who's the leader on offense?
Which his first name is Moses. Forgive me for who they just brought in from the Jets. Anyone catch him on the microphone?
Yeah. No, I didn't. Is he good?
No, he's the leader. Forgive me for not knowing his name. That's an amateur hour.
Morgan Moses.
Yeah, so, dude, I'm telling you, anyone who caught him on the microphone, ready to lead, Vrabel's the reason he's here. I just think it flips everything. I don't think leadership's going to be an issue with this team.
Yeah, I wonder on the offensive side because somebody has got to emerge. And, does Mac Hollins try to walk in and do too much right away? How much?
No way. Well, who emerges? It's Drake May.
Well, and that's what you hope. That's what you need.
No, I don't
know if that's naturally going to happen right away. And that's why I wonder kind of where they're at on that side of the ball. And Vrabel will be much better, I think, at helping May become a leader than Gerard Mayo would have. There's no question about that. I just don't know if it's that from week one.
So I definitely want to talk quickly about the Red Sox before we get out of here.
We have to. But I'm they're
just curious
all over everybody's eyes.
I know that we've talked so much about Travis Hunter, but I know you're a lineman. And I guess, like, if Abdul Carter's sitting there at 4, maybe there's red flags. I don't think he'll be there because of the injuries, right? So if you're given a choice, right, do you even consider Abdul Carter over Travis Hunter? Because I don't think Travis Hunter's going to be there. I think one way or another, someone's getting Travis Hunter before I think the Patriots messed up that number 1 slot, and they're going to suffer by not getting Travis Hunter. But for me, if you're telling me I get Abdul Carter, I just think it's going to work out some way or another.
No, you'll get a good player. The question is, will it be a part of team building, or will it be this was the best player available? Because if you, and if you look at the way the roster's built, they don't need Abdul Carter. He would be in some ways excess, although you would sure as hell find a way to get him on the field, and then maybe you've rebuilt your defensive line. Let's remember, even though they added Milton Williams on the interior, I'm not ruling out Mason Graham of being a guy drafted there, because he is a big, and they're going to rotate those guys. And if you have 3 that can rotate, now you're talking about 60% play time for all those guys, and that's your interior 3 that you're rotating at a really high disruptive level. So I think Graham is still in play. But look, the Patriots will be tantalized if Carter and Hunter are still both somehow on the board at number 4. I wonder who calls them, because if you go back to last year, Elliott Wolf, I'm sure, would have loved to have made a trade, but they had to get the quarterback, right? But Elliott was itching to make a deal, and that's what I wonder. Thank God Vrabel's there, because I think little Elliott, if it were Hunter and Carter on the board and someone called and said, well, you can slide down to our spot and we'll give you X amount of picks next year, I think he would really want to do that, to take more swings. So I'm hoping there's someone there to say, no. I know we all love picks and everybody does, but these are transcendent players. Pick the one you want. And then that's where I hope you go with the guy that can play on offense and defense, because they kind of need that kind of player right now. But it's a fascinating discussion, because what would have to happen for both Carter and Hunter to be on the board? That means both quarterbacks would have gone, and there was an upset in there somewhere.
Very well laid out there. And I can't stop thinking about the New York Giants in that number 3 slot. I don't love Joe Shane. I maybe like Dable more than I like Shane. But I just have this sense that Brian Dable, everything that's happened at quarterback, I just feel as though Brian Dable, I don't know, man. It's like, are these guys coaching and transacting for their jobs? I just don't think they're going to let Travis Hunter get by at number 3, because I just feel as though Shadur Sanders is going to drop a bit. Maybe that's crazy.
Let me throw a little wild card into that, okay? Remember last year during the, Hard Knocks, that version of Hard Knocks or whatever it was, and they had the owner, John Mara, saying to Joe Shane, boy, if Saquon goes to Philly, I'm going to be really upset. How much pressure is on the general manager from ownership to end up with one of these 2 quarterbacks? So I almost feel like, because the Maras said, okay, we'll keep you 2 for this year. We'll keep you around. So is Joe Shane been neutered to where he's going to pass on someone like Hunter, because the owner's standing over him going, boy, I really like that quarterback from Colorado there. And it changes the draft for them.
Fascinating. Malik Neighbors already in one of the best wide receivers in the whole league already after 1 season. It's fascinating, man. This draft, I cannot wait.
Oh, I dig it too. Quickly on the Red Sox, it appears as if Rafael Devers is just going to be okay, Jay, to take his, $30+ million and only hit. In what world do we live in where you say to a person, hey, listen, we paid you to do this, but you know what? We're not going to mess with your money, but we're going to ask you to do less. And someone goes, no, I don't want to do less. Even though
I'll give you a perfect example.
Guaranteed. Come on, man.
Perfect example. No. Well, so my brother John, as a broadcaster, right? He used to do a lot of post-fight interviews, right? Now, never doing post-fight interviews on the pay-per-views. That's obviously Joe Rogan, but it's mostly fighters. He did some recently. But so I would say that is an example of something that adds to his plate, but he loves doing it. And so I do think for baseball, look, your point's very well taken. All you got to do is DH. You're going to make $40 million a year. I get it. But and it's going to work out because Cora's there, and I think the organization seems to be running well. But I get it. That dude wants to be out in the field. He's a he's a gifted fielder, even though the measurables don't add up, right? And he's a liability out there. He makes some plays. He slings the leather a little bit. So I just feel as though it's almost the kid in him wanting to play baseball. You know, I think ultimately it's going to work out. And I do think he'll probably see some time in there, don't you?
Well, I think ultimately he'll be the first baseman on this team because I can already feel the clock ticking on Tristan Casas.
Interesting.
You can tell that unless he starts to really break out, I think you can tell that, oh, this guy's a little bit annoying. He, doesn't fit, I don't think. So I wonder if Devers ultimately does end up at first base, but he got to get Casas the hell out of there. So right now, the top 6 in the order looks like Duran, Devers, Bregman, Casas, Story, Abreu. We'll see where Yoshida fits in there. If Devers has got to be the DH now because of the way you built it, then you're going to have to put Yoshida in the outfield somewhere. I mean, I guess if you can hide Manny, can you hide Yoshida? I guess you could. And there's still some more pieces that the Red Sox need. But right now, the win total is at 86.5. And if I said to you, what's your lean right now? Not that you'd lock it in, but Red Sox 86.5, lean for you, Jay.
Over every day. What were they last year? 81 and 81?
I think they were straight up. It was either 80 and 82 or 81 and 81.
You know, I think so either way, but no, I absolutely love it. And you know, we talk about, the DH as if it's a problem, but actually they have a little bit of depth. Yeah, you maybe have to hide a guy to spot and you're going to have a liability in a certain game on defense, but Garrett Crochet was not on the roster last year. Dude is an absolute unit. I can't wait till I believe he'll be getting the opening day start. And I also think, you look at the Yankees, and it is a tough division. Baltimore's there. Toronto could bounce back. Tampa's always relevant. But with Garrett Cole not on the Yankees, with Juan Soto not on the Yankees, they are the biggest threat. And the Red Sox always make noise. Alex Cora has them overachieving every year. I'm expecting big things. And I think the lineup is such that they could suffer inevitably an injury at some point and still be able to rebound. Trevor Story, I wish for him health. I wish so much for him health. He's had a decent spring, and gosh, he's missed so many opportunities to play baseball. And whether you liked, 7 years, 140 million, whatever the contract was, whether you liked it or not, if he could actually play 120 games,
it'd be huge.
I think it could help the team tremendously. So it's for those, Gresh, for you and me who are, football guys.
Yes.
We are Boston guys. And it's really, as a Boston sports fan, it's really as exciting a time as there is. You got the defending champs in the Boston Celtics, and the Red Sox and Patriots have great chances to sort of come out of the basement. So give me all of it.
They do. And I think for the Red Sox, it's a really important year because there's an appropriate level of expectation and excitement going in. Now, how quick will that go away? And there you go right there. That is as solid a wager as you're going to find. Alex Cora for the American League Manager of the Year. Think of this. All it's going to take for Alex Cora, Jay, is a second place finish in the division.
Bingo.
And making the playoffs for a guy like Cora to be ultimately considered for Manager of the Year.
I like that's a good value spot, Bone. Good hit.
Oh, good job there by Cody. By the way, Sox plus 350 to win the AL East. If you like them to finish second, you're still getting plus money on the Red Sox at plus 130 for a second place finish in the American League East. So let's have a little fun today to kind of bring home this edition of GAS. And I don't know if you saw this, but look, I'm a divorced guy, so I'm not saying that I have a heightened sensitivity to this, but I always wonder why, like, the 50-year-old guy marries like a 30-year-old and they've already got grown kids, and yet they procreate once again with the younger wife. I've never understood all of that.
It's very simple. I'm not sure why you can't understand that.
Well, because once you've sort of had kids, you've gone through the process, and then you're halfway through your life, you're 50 years old, you're probably closer to dying than not. And just because you meet some young filly and she's like, hey, we better have a kid together, then you're 70 years old getting wheeled into a high school graduation. Just does not seem to be very appealing to me at that age.
Fair. I don't expect anybody to be wheeling me in my 70s, nor do I expect anybody wheeling you in your 70s. I've been with my wife I'm 46 years old. I've been with my wife since I was 25.
Right.
So it didn't, but what I will say is that I think Belichick, if I were Bill Belichick,
You would not.
I'll finish. I don't think I would do that. But if you think Belichick's 72, I think that I would probably try to be with someone in their 50s, perhaps.
Well, yeah, I know. I totally understand. It's to me.
I think Renato Moicano's dad had a child at 62. I think.
Yes. My father is 62 years old, and he had a baby yesterday. So tomorrow, when I get home, I'm going to get my wife pregnant another time. Because if my
and he did. His wife is pregnant with another baby.
I can choose.
62 with a newborn.
Gotta love it.
I don't get it, but congratulations to David Ortiz, because last night the video was out of Big Papi dropping to knee, near 50 years old. I think this woman's like 30 or whatever. Papi's got grown kids. Now, by the way, not only does Papi have a baby mama and a kid in the Dominican that people don't talk about, there is the ex-wife Tiffany and the kids that they had. She's like the big Packer fan, I retweeted this and just said, prenup Papi. That's all I can think of. Protect the assets, for crying out loud. I guess congratulations, but I don't know if all of a sudden here's Big Papi at 51 years old on Fox and being like, oh, here's little Junior Papi and he's holding a tiny baby. I'm not going to understand it.
He's all about it. He does have a young child, I think, right, with someone else. I can't keep up with him. But gosh, I mean, he brings a smile to my face every time I see him, no matter what he's doing, no matter what it is. Give me all of David Ortiz. A very close second on my favorite Boston athletes of all time to the great Kevin Garnett.
Oh, okay. All right. I was wondering where you were going. I was going to say, if you said Kevin Millar.
Kevin Garnett is far and away my favorite athlete of all time. Anyone who catches any of his content on Instagram, KG certified. He's just great. Electricity. He's old school. He's the guy. He's the first dude who ever, when the whistle blows and someone tries to get up an extra 3-point shot, he originated blocking that shot. Give me all of KG every day of the week. Go ahead.
I love it. And then there was St. Patrick's Day. And Jay, I know that you are in beautiful, sunny Florida. But over the past 2 days in Boston, the city has been a mess. The city has run amok with a bunch of people who think they can just put on green shirts, get completely ossified drunk, jump off overpasses, fight the cops, fight each other. It was the truest version of amateur hour up here over the last 2 days in Boston. But maybe nobody takes the St. Patrick's Day cake like Tracy Morgan. Tracy Morgan, who yacked courtside at a Knicks game last night. Your thoughts on this display?
So I saw the image first, and then I saw another video of him being like wheeled out in a wheelchair, and I guess he had a bloody nose. You see the girl a seat away or whatever, sort of leaning the other side.
Yep.
I mean, I'm just feeling for the guy here. I mean, I hope he's all right, but I mean, what an image, right? Like, wow. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. And you see the producer of the broadcast team, right? Almost just like, okay, like, he doesn't like it. But yeah, man, when you sit in those courtside seats, you are right there. And I'm often surprised that there's not more, you see the spills of the beers, but that's one of the grossest things I've ever seen on a court.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. I mean, that's not like Curb Your Enthusiasm where Larry's got his legs out and Shaq trips over
Cody's
him.
Killing me.
I mean, these videos of the videos are all time. Hopefully Tracy Morgan is okay. I know he dealt with health issues after that big wreck with like the Walmart truck and stuff like that. But I don't know. I mean, you're telling me that it's St. Pat's Day and a guy barfs on a sideline and I'm not supposed to think that they might be connected in some way, shape, or form? Oh, this is gross. I don't know. I don't know where Cody's going with this one, and I don't know if we necessarily need to see it, but there it is. So Tracy Morgan. And then finally, I know, Jay, that I've mentioned that whenever they were at Mohegan Sun, I went to a bare knuckle fighting event and had an absolute blast, right? And we know that UFC legend Conor McGregor is a part of that ownership group. McGregor was visiting Trump at the White House and all that. And there is McGregor there. So this is supposed to be for the fight, the bare knuckle fight coming up at 2300 Arena. And the guy who was handing out the cannolis is apparently the local Philly guy. They try to get some locals in there and stuff. So he hands out the cannolis thinking that this is all going to – look at McGregor right there. He's all into this, right? And then there it is. He handed it and bang, you have to – and look at McGregor. There could be a fight, and Conor McGregor is still standing there holding the cannoli in his hand, laughing. Cannoli ends up on the side of this guy's head. Oh, my God. Cannoli justice, apparently, in the next BKFC.
Dude, unbelievable. And did the good dude hands him a cannoli and then he tries to like shake his head.
And then he whacked it out of his hand. And like, and McGregor just cracked me up because he's there just laughing at this whole thing as if, oh, if it starts to go down, I can chuck this cannoli or the security guys will end up running in. And, I don't want to turn it into a promo for like BKFC, but I got to say, when a fighter ends up with cannoli upside the head, I mean, that's a pretty good, that's at least enough to get the interest to make people go, why does that guy that looked like he would pull my innards out of me have this, delicious smear on the side of his face?
Yeah, right. Well, I know you're not going to do a promo for BKFC, but I am going to do a promo for Dirty Boxing Championship because I'll be there in Miami on a headset. So I'm going to be broadcasting Dirty Boxing Championships, Platinum Mike Perry, I believe Brendan Tobin, who's a local Miami radio guy. I think we're going to have the Schmo on the sidelines, but main event, Yoel Romero, co-main event, former UFC heavyweight champion, Andre Arlovsky. So give me all of that. This Saturday, the hangar at Regatta Harbor, I guess it's his old boat hangar in Miami, Florida. So I'm excited, man, calling my first boxing event, Dirty Boxing, 4-ounce gloves. You can use elbows, ground and pound. Should be vicious. Should be sort of the opposite of some of the jiu-jitsu stuff I've called, but I'm excited to get into that Saturday night.
Oh my goodness. So are you, what role are you in this? Do you know?
Question. It's fascinating. It's like I feel as though some of my broadcasting gigs, at least in MMA, I'm sort of been like that Dennis Miller when he used to do Monday. Not that I'm the comedy relief, but I'm like the third guy, right? I thought perhaps I'd be play-by-play, and I've never truly done play-by-play. But even when I did Anthony Pettis Fighting Championships, you had Ben Davis on play-by-play, Bilal Muhammad as a color analyst, and then fucking me, right? So I think it'll be similar. I think Brendan Tobin will probably handle the play-by-play, and Perry will be describing the action. I'll be there. But what I will say, I've learned a lot from John. I know how to prepare these fighters. I know, I'll be there for the fighter meetings. I know a lot about some of these guys that are already on the card. So I do think there's some behind-the-scenes stuff that I can bring to the broadcast. Spent a lot of years watching my brother, critiquing my brother. I've obviously watched a lot of mixed martial arts over the years. So hopefully I'll add a little flavor.
Well, it will be easier for you because the one thing about John that is tough, and I think it's this way, if you go by the TKO group, both UFC and WWE, for those who don't know there's a lot of traffic within the broadcast. And what you mean by that is that it's the read this card, here's this promo, read this intro, plug this, stuff like that. So for people who think that John just gets to sit down and just sort of call the fights and not worry about it. Is he standing up? Is he down, on camera, off? There's so much traffic going on that for you, you're not going to be the traffic cop. If anything,
bingo. It's all,
it's perfect. What a nice introduction into that kind of world in that sort of role.
No question about it. You nailed it. You could be sure my brother's driving traffic all night, reading promotions all night. But I will say, we are identical twins. So I think my skill set perhaps is cut from that cloth, right? I do think that I do believe that I could drive the traffic on a broadcast, right? Where it'll be a unique situation being in a position where I'm not a fighter, right? But I do believe that there are opportunities for me to describe the action, if you will. And I've worked with a lot of different people, and there's some play-by-play guys that describe the action more than others. You've worked with a ton of play-by-play guys, and I'm sure a ton of different guys that have all sorts of different styles. So I'm excited, but ultimately nothing like calling combat sports and being cage side and just watching it.
I have to say, it's something that appeals to me more and more as I get deeper and deeper into my broadcast life, just because I love MMA. I love fighting. I love being around it. And even if it isn't the technical stuff, just the excitement that people can add to a broadcast. You're not going to be in-ring interviewer, are you? You're not doing that, are you?
I hope so. I did do that for APFC, and it's a blast. It's a blast. I've done it before. I say to my brother, because he just did it for the first time in many years. I texted him. I'm like, yeah, just don't fall going up or down the stairs, and you'll be good. Because when I used to watch him do those, and he would run He'd be running back to his seat. I'd be like, bro, stop running. He'd flick this sort of IFB out of his ear, whatever. I love it. Yeah.
Out. Yeah.
No, but doing the post-fight interviews, nothing like being in the cage or in the octagon. And John's dream is that Bruce Buffer will have an emergency at some point, and John will be asked to go in there and announce. That's his dream.
And do the Charlie Arnold thing when
right, we talked about that exactly. Yeah. And she was phenomenal when she filled in for Joma.
Well, and you also know what it is too. Like if you come from the WWE world, it's all live all the time. And that's the thing that I think people forget about is you're trained in live television to just sort of roll with it whenever you kind of come out of that world. And she's really good anyway. Don't get me wrong. Her and Laura Sanko are just mega stars, I think. So anyway, there you go. So when is this? Is this weekend? Where can I need to write down where I can watch it.
Yeah, Saturday night. I think it's all over YouTube. Check out the Dirty Boxing Championship YouTube Instagram page. All the details there. I'm excited. It'll be interesting. Right. Leon Edwards is fighting Sean Brady in London. So hopefully I'll be able to see that in the afternoon. I think my brother John might be coming down to Miami doing a watch party for the Anik Florian podcast, perhaps in the afternoon. But yeah, you should find that on YouTube. I think there'll be some eyeballs on it. Yoel Romero in the main event with 4-ounce gloves, being able to do whatever he wants. And I'm interested to watch it with no kicks. Kick.
That will be interesting with no kicks. I'm more interested to watch it so I can critique you.
Please do.
That's what that was my thought. It's like, okay, I want to see this. Because I have a funny feeling that you might get a little more airtime than you think if you're working with Mike Perry. Because I know that, you know, he's nuttier than a squirrel turd, no question. But
he's the man.
He's I think he's involved in the bare knuckle thing too, if I'm not.
Yeah, well, that's why I was Dirty Boxing, but this is sort of his gig. And yeah, Cody, appreciate you putting this up. But I think it's gonna be exciting. And you know, I will say Mike Perry. Yeah, he's an absolute animal in the cage, but he's really thoughtful and really insightful out of it. And it's all right. Brendan Tobin, who I haven't met, but I think my brother knows a little bit. I always love working with professional broadcasters too, right? I tell Cody, you know, John Morgan, longtime UFC reporter, I'll never forget when I worked with him for the first time on the set and just looked down at a pro, and man, it was easy to work with him. So I'm excited. Give me all of it. But as Rogan says, we're all professional fans for the most part.
Yeah, very much so, and that'll translate, I'm sure. Well, I'm geeked for you, friend. I just got my normal Sirius and on Saturday morning and ESPN Saturday night, and then Infinity Sports Radio on Sunday, and we'll see what happens on Sunday evening. There is a UFC this weekend that we didn't get to. Nice main event with Leon Edwards involved. I know you just mentioned that, and of course, check out Jay on Dirty Boxing. I cannot wait to check this out. So there you go, folks. I gave you a little Red Sox, a little Patriots, a little NCAA tournament, and some fun getting out the door. And make sure you are signing up to be a part of our bracket challenge as well. You can find me and Jay on Twitter at The Real Gresh, at Boston Anik, at Cody_Merrow. Get our guy Bones in there as well. We'll make sure to tweet it out. You can have some fun along with us during the show. And that is it. It's another edition of GAS. We are out of here. We'll see you next week, you dirty boxing fuckers.